One woman's courage to speak up just destroyed a billion-dollar empire and sent its king straight to federal prison, and she almost didn't survive to tell the story. Her name is Cassie Ventura. For over a decade, she lived in the shadow of one of hip-hop's most powerful men. She was his girlfriend, his artist, his prisoner. Sean Diddy Combs controlled every aspect of her life, and when she finally tried to escape, he threatened to destroy her completely. But what he didn't expect was that this 37-year-old singer would become the first domino to fall, triggering an avalanche that would expose one of the darkest criminal enterprises in entertainment history. This is the story of how the woman who was supposed to stay silent forever became the voice that brought down a monster. The year was 2005. Cassie Ventura was just 19 years old, a beautiful aspiring singer from Connecticut with dreams of making it big. When she walked into Bad Boy Records, she thought she was meeting her fairy tale prince. Sean Combs was already a legend, the king of hip-hop, worth hundreds of millions, with the power to make careers overnight. But what started as a dream quickly became a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Cassie was 19 when she met Diddy in 2005, and he signed her to his label. He didn't just want her as an artist, he wanted to own her completely. They dated on and off from about 2007 to 2018, but according to her explosive lawsuit, this wasn't a relationship, it was a prison sentence. For 13 years, Cassie lived in a world where Diddy controlled everything. Where she went, who she spoke to, what she wore, even who she could be friends with. But the real horror was happening behind closed doors, in those infamous gatherings that would later become the center of federal criminal charges. Here's the twist that changes everything. Cassie wasn't just a victim, she was a witness. For over a decade, she watched Diddy build what prosecutors now call the Combs Enterprise, a criminal organization disguised as a music empire. She saw the drugs, the violence, the threats, the payments to keep people quiet. But every time she tried to leave, the walls closed in tighter. In 2018, something inside Cassie finally broke. She gathered enough courage to walk away from the man who had controlled her life for over a decade. But leaving Diddy wasn't like breaking up with a normal boyfriend. It was like trying to escape from a mob boss. He didn't just let her go. He made her life hell. For 5 years after their breakup, Cassie lived in fear. She got married, had children, tried to build a normal life. But Diddy's shadow followed her everywhere. He had videos, recordings, evidence of things she was forced to do. He held her past like a loaded gun, pointed at her future. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. Cassie wasn't the only one suffering in silence. There were others. Dozens of them. Men and women who had been hurt, threatened, and traumatized by the same man. But everyone was too scared to speak up. Until November 2023, when Cassie made a decision that changed everything. When settlement negotiations failed, Ventura filed a lawsuit alleging assault, physical abuse, and forced encounters with adult workers. But this wasn't just any lawsuit. It was a 35-page roadmap of federal crimes spanning over a decade. She detailed the intimate gatherings, the drugs, the violence, the human trafficking. She named names, provided dates, and painted a picture so detailed that it read like a criminal indictment. And then came the shock that proved just how dangerous her accusations were. Diddy settled the lawsuit within 24 hours for $20 million. $20 million. In one day. Think about that for a moment. A man worth nearly $1 billion doesn't pay $20 million to make a false lawsuit disappear in 24 hours. You pay $20 million when you're desperate to keep the truth buried. But Cassie had already lit a fuse that couldn't be put out. In the wake of Ventura's filing, dozens more men and women began suing Combs for intimate assault, with allegations such as intimate harassment, unwanted groping, group assault, and trafficking. Her courage gave others the strength to speak up. One of those voices belonged to Rodney Lil Rod Jones, a music producer who worked closely with Diddy. Jones filed a $30 million intimate assault and harassment lawsuit against Diddy in February 2024, alleging that Diddy harassed, drugged, and threatened him during the time he worked on Diddy's 2023 album between September 2022 and September 2023. But here's the incredible twist. Jones's lawsuit became a guidepost for the federal criminal charges brought against Combs. The inside details he provided as someone who lived and worked in Diddy's world gave prosecutors the roadmap they needed to build their case. The avalanche was unstoppable now. On March 25, 2024, federal agents stormed Diddy's mansions in Los Angeles and Miami. What they found inside corroborated everything Cassie and the other victims had been saying: the drugs, the videos, the evidence of coercion and trafficking. On September 16, 2024, Sean Combs was arrested and charged with racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in inappropriate activities. The man who once ruled hip-hop was now sitting in a federal detention center, facing the possibility of life in prison. But the story gets even more dramatic. During Diddy's federal trial, Cassie took the stand and testified about her settlement, revealing for the first time that she received $20 million. She looked her former captor in the eye and told the world exactly what he had done to her. She was forced to read aloud explicit messages during cross-examination, reliving her trauma in front of a packed courtroom. But she didn't break. She didn't run. She stood there and faced the monster who had controlled her life for 13 years. The woman who was once too terrified to speak up had become the star witness in one of the most important criminal trials in entertainment history. Today, as Diddy sits in jail awaiting his fate, Cassie is finally free. She has her family, her peace, and most importantly, her voice. Meanwhile, Lil Rod says he's broke, in hiding and can't find work following his lawsuit against Diddy, showing the real cost of speaking truth to power. But their courage changed everything. What started with one woman's decision to finally tell her story became a movement that exposed decades of alleged crimes and brought down one of the most powerful men in entertainment. The girl who walked into Bad Boy Records at 19, dreaming of stardom, became the woman who at 37 brought down an empire built on silence and fear. Cassie Ventura didn't just survive Sean Combs, she defeated him. And in doing so, she showed the world that no one, no matter how rich or powerful, is above the law. The king has fallen, and it was his own victim who pushed him off the throne.